Paul, and been having a lot of fun. So much fun that I'm proud to announce also that Harrison Ford actually did walk away from this crash. He's doing well. Just wanted to make sure that everyone's kept up to date. So, outside of the AEC Hackathon, one of the reasons why we actually came together and started this thing is that David and I were really scratching our heads on two big things. One was, how come we don't have a lot of good R&D going on, and how can we sustain R&D instead of just having like one project, oh, it worked, and then you show it at like, you know, an AIA convention, and that's about it, right? How do you actually make something work? The second reason why, and it's a very selfish one, is I need really good coders. I really want to learn about what's going on in the industry, because what our business does is that we implement technologies on real projects, right? And those projects are really outside of AEC sometimes, actually most of the time, because what we found out about 6 years ago is that a lot of the digital DNA that you guys create every day, every time you hit the enter key on Revit, every time that you do something in Navisworks, what you're doing is you're creating the digital structure, the little microcosms of what makes up that physical structure on the planet Earth. And our job at the DigiGroup is to actually make the cyber world talk with the physical world and vice versa. And when you do that, you can actually geolocate stuff. Which means that we're not talking about the old Windows metaphor of taking a file, putting it into a folder, and having a directory tree. Wow, we're still there. What would happen if everything that you did is actually geolocated into a specific place on the planet Earth, and it's surrounded by a building, where the building actually hosts that data, and it is a server? And when you interconnect those buildings, and you internetwork those buildings, you have the Internet of Buildings. That is what our job is. How we get there? It's just all over the place sometimes, which is why the innovation part of this is fun. So the term for when you interconnect things together and then start to sell things, and what we sell to are municipalities, federal governments, state governments, foreign governments, big real estate developers, is this concept of smart cities. But it starts with a smart building, which means that we actually have to start with AEC. So you can see that there's a critical path that goes all through this. It's all about the data. Data has a persistence all the way through. So in other words, if you guys are doing the data wrong, then when it comes back up to me, when I'm trying to make applications that are trying to save lives for firefighters, I can't make a mistake, so I have to rely on you. So you start to see that there's this really interesting holistic pattern of what people call big data. But we've always been about big data. We've just been using everything from, you know, sand to parchment to Mylar, now into plotting prints. Right? There's that still thing there. We've always been part of a big data exercise, except now we can connect the dots a lot easier because you can see what the end result is. There's some very interesting things going on, specifically in the world of owners, specifically Disney. Right? They're putting up Shanghai Disney right now, rocking and rolling. Except before they put it up there during the planning process, they actually took Revit and took two different hotels, and what they did was they had students from Tsinghua University and Stanford University over one summer go ahead and locate every single component that made up those hotels. A true VDC exercise, virtual design and construction. Now, why would you want to do that? We don't make watches, right? But they want to know where every bolt was, every nail. It was insane. But the reason why they did that was they wanted to show what was going to be important as you start to put systems together 15 years later, why that's important for the operator of those hotels. And then show the critical path all the way back to when you hit that enter key in Revit for those families. You may not think that that's important during the AEC phase. It may not be, but it's really, really important downstream. So they're trying to change the value system of what these big data exercises are all about. The way that we actually start to go about this is we've created a technology that was originally designed by the designer of Google Earth, a guy named Remy Arnaud, who really started kicking himself after he created the engine called Intrinsic. That's the thing that does the tiling, right? That's Remy. He came on board, was our chief software architect, and what he figured out was that images are inherently stupid. You have to actually attach data to it to actually make it valuable, right? What he wanted to do is actually take data and actually drive geometry from that. So what we created was the first browser-based 3D world. And we did that 6 years ago. We've renamed it Orbi, and what this does is that it's a visual data platform in 3D that allows you to tell a better story, period. It's not an authoring tool. It's not meant to replace anything. What it does is it augments everything you use into a data environment. So you're going to see some examples about what that means when we say big data from AEC and how that actually then transponds in value proposition about where we're going forward. We are an IBM business partner. We're actually part of their global entrepreneurship program. We're 3 years old in this reiteration of what we are as a DigiGroup. And because we're a startup, what's really cool about being part of an IBM global entrepreneurship program is that we get free cloud. That's pretty awesome when you're a startup. All those expenses go away. Not that it's too expensive, but even still, you scale and you're part of that world. And because of a lot of the ideas of smart cities, we've been very lucky in being published by groups like McGraw-Hill, the World Institute of Chartered Surveyors, Oxford University, and most recently we've been asked now to speak at the G7 summit in Germany this coming June. And the reason why is because what we're doing now is showing a way forward of really what I actually don't like the term smart cities. It's more like urban solutions because the population of the world is becoming more urbanized across the globe, not just one country, which means that there's a big issue of how do you manage people, and people are looking at data and technology as being one of those catalysts of how do you manage this process. So this is where things become interesting. What happens when we can actually take things like what we've learned through the first internet phase? By the way, I hate these pop-up things. You know, Windows, charge. But anyway, this idea of now we're into this next phase. This whole world of Internet 1.0 is about changing the idea of computing into communication. Right? Your computer is now more of a communications device than anything. This Internet 2.0 now is starting to now take inanimate objects and allowing them to talk to each other in order then to communicate with us. Right? You know, there's more power in my 6 Plus right now than all the other computers put together that I've had for a very long time because of the communication power that I have with this thing. Right? So we've moved from computing into communication, and now there's this morphing into saying, well, what happens when we can take physical environments and have it communicate back to my iPhone, and vice versa? That's this idea of Internet 2.0, and there's plenty of stuff that we can take a look at that affects the AEC industry perfectly. We all know that when there's a trigger out there in the world, there's this technology world that says, okay, cool. I really like what that idea is. Almost like what the Hackathon does, right? Mashups of different things. Going, that's a great idea. Then also we have these inflated expectations, which is usually what happens around 4 p.m. Saturday at a hackathon. We're going to change the world, and then all of a sudden you have to code. You got the trough of disillusionment. Shit, we're not going to make it. And then what happens is you sort of come out of this because the real pragmatic stuff starts to come into play, and a lot of the hype and the bandwagon stuff goes away. And suddenly there's practical application, and you get into technology being transparent to the process. What I mean by that, you want the value of your conversation rather than understanding how this iPhone talks to a Samsung Android phone. You don't care. It's about the conversation. The more that we can think about that, both internally of how we work inside the AEC industry and externally how we communicate that back out into the built environment, the better we're going to be. You know, the fact that we have to have a university to learn how to use our software, that's just effed up. Are you kidding me? We should not be there anymore. We're now in a world of, again, the best technology is transparent to the process. So as you start to see things like tablets now went through this entire thing at different velocities, different technologies go through this, phase. But, virtual worlds, they are here. They're here to stay. Why? Because the gamers are pushing it. And the gamers have what? A shitload of money. Because they are now the new Hollywood. Everything that you see now in movies used to be based upon really cool concepts. Star Wars generated games. Now games are generating movies. And we're going to see over the next 10 years a morphing where you won't know the difference because why? TV, as we know, it's gone away. Think of Netflix. Netflix with gaming, with this wonderful thing called the Facebook Oculus Rift. We're starting to get into a really, really strange world which we do not, there'll still be movie theaters, there'll still be, those things, but there's a place in the world for the Amish too, right? This is where we're going with all this stuff. So when we get into things like cloud computing, augmented reality, wireless power, big data, the Internet of Things, all these things are going to be moving and they're going to continue to move as we continue to innovate. So when we take a look at Internet 2.0 and how that affects us, we should start really with, these sensors that are now being thrust into existing buildings. But we're now starting to see a lot of forward-thinking organizations saying, well, what would happen if we could take things like these iBeacons from Apple that are really cool sensors that use things like Bluetooth, right? Has a 2-year battery, has an adhesive strip, stick it up there. Every 60 feet, I put one of ththese in there, I got the equivalent of a gig fiber network that then communicates out to what? opt-in apps. So that if I'm actually at the Apple Store, which is what you see right here at Grand Central Station, every Apple Store has iBeacons right now. Do you remember that scene in Minority Report when he was walking through the mall? And all of a sudden it's like, hey, you haven't shopped here in six months, we'll give you a discount right now. They're doing that right now at every Apple Store. You can actually go up on Michigan Avenue and actually interact with it if you like. It also adds some really cool other things. Loyalty apps in restaurants. It's the big thing right now in China using iBeacon technology, where you download a loyalty app even before you walk into the restaurant. What pops up on the Maitre D's iPad? Your name, your preferences, where you like to sit, what wine you like, what you're a vegan, vegan, whatever that thing is. I eat meat. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it starts to now allow you to get a VIP service. Now, why is that important in China? Well, there's a crackdown on a lot of payment and that type of thing within the government, a lot of corruption. And right now they're cracking down on taking anyone out to a restaurant because you want to be seen as part of the corruption, which means that right now, over the past 12 months, the restaurant, people going to restaurants is down by 80%. So restaurants are looking for a leg up. And big thing in Chinese culture is face. You make someone feel special, they're going to want to come back. So that's why these technologies are really, really interesting about taking sensors and sticking them into existing conditions. But what's really cool is watching certain designers, especially the interior designers, that are now incorporating this into the actual building materials themselves. So that we actually do have an interactive environment and start the process of opting in and doing something special. We have now a new palette of creating a better user experience inside of the built environment structure. What they've done is that they've taken the surface of the sink itself, and a toilet, and they incorporated nanotechnology into it to understand how to communicate if they start to feel that it's gotten too dirty. Because here's the problem in facility management inside of an airport. Every airport have banks of planes. And sometimes there could be 2 hours where there's just a real lull. There's no one there because you're not having the people run back and forth. But there's other times where for an hour period, you could have a really, really, really busy time inside the bathrooms. But you've all been inside of these airport bathrooms, right? There's a sheet, right, that says that guy came that hour and he cleaned it once an hour. That's wrong, because what happens is in that 1 hour, it probably needed to be cleaned 4 or 5 times, and it's an absolute mess. Then, when it's a slow time, he's actually cleaning the bathroom and it's already clean. So with nanotechnology, what we're able to do is have the Corian top talk to the sink, go, are you dirty? Yeah, I'm dirty. Hey, toilet, you dirty? Yep. Send out a text, and then the guy comes clean. We're talking about the social life of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So it's sort of like the sink has to friend the toilet that has to friend the Corian top. It's going to be really cool to see if they get pissed off and actually unfriend each other, almost like in Facebook. But that's real. So nanotechnology is part of Internet 2.0. Of course, we're starting to see a lot of the building automation equipment, things like Nest with thermostats. But Nest is a technology, not just the beautiful equipment part of it. And they're looking now to actually take that technology and implement it where? Into appliances. Things like GE appliances, things like that. Google wants that because they want the data, the big data part of what we've built and what we've specified. So as we start to move through this entire world, we should also be taking a look at other types of tools that can start to help us, not just in the user experience, but how about internally. So 4 weeks ago at the New York City Hackathon, we actually had a Tango phone come. This is a Google X Labs experiment. This one group out of Dallas actually had it to prove out does it really work? And the concept is this: if you have a modern iPhone today or certain Androids, you know that you go like this and you can actually get the image to come up to where you are. It's a gyroscope that's inside. Very, very similar, except that it's a planar one. It only goes like X, Y. It doesn't have a Z. Well, when Google bought the mobility division of Motorola, they actually hacked the phone and put a 360-degree gyroscope inside of it. That also allowed them then to do things like stick LiDAR into it, so that when you actually walk into a room like this with a Tango phone, it gives you 20 points of measure through LiDAR a second, which means that you're building a 3D model into the phone. In order to communicate it back out, you put it right into a Unity engine, and you can email it out and actually start the concept of having as-built. Or you're going into, as an architect, instead of sending kids out there with a tape measure or maybe the laser light measure, that type of thing, you walk into your Tango phone, you're done. You're done. And it's more accurate than anything, including human beings. Because I remember being an intern architect in New York City and being asked to go into a crawl space. Oh yeah? When I see a rat that big, yeah, it's 6 feet. Forget that. Those days are over, right? Because now you shake the phone, you grab it, it's accurate to a millimeter. So we're actually now starting to get better accurate data now, all through these types of tools like Project Tango. One last piece of this, of course, is the gaming world. We just saw Ricardo with his use of gaming. We had at the last hackathon on a Sunday, a ad hoc mini hackathon where we invited girls 8 through 12 years old to come and hack the built environment by using Minecraft. And the criteria was, why don't you design a world or a building and show us what you think sustainability is all about and make it as green as you want. And it was amazing to watch them present at the same time that the hackers were presenting. And they stole the show. There was actually one group of girls, there were 5 of them, that worked on a single model in real time, designed an entire mini neighborhood that had things like photovoltaic cells. They had rooftop farming with with hydropods. And they're 8 years old. So not only did they do things that most architectural engineering firms don't do, which is work on a single model in real time together and do it right, they came up with really good designs. I hired them. It was amazing to watch, not just kids in our industry work this way, but the thought process. I mean, they really are wired differently. But this is where the world of Minecraft starts to democratize design. We're going to get a lot more of this because guess what? They're doing it better than us. We're still trying to figure out how to make, drop, Revit into a gaming engine when why not just use Minecraft? Yeah, it's 8-bit, but guess what? You get the point across. Sometimes we miss what we're trying to do here. So, at the end of the day, this is where all big data comes. I'm going to show you a project that we have been working on since September. We're working directly with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Alawi. He has a company called the Jeddah Economic Company. We're working as their digital asset managers. So we work with the world's tallest building. It's 1 kilometer tall, double the size of the oldest building. It's a vertical city. It's under construction right now. Actually, Thornton Town City people in the audience here? Yeah, you guys are the structural engineers on this fantastic project. It's actually 18 floors up out of the ground already. This thing's being built. It's a very high water table. I don't know how you guys figured that out, but it's a floating building. So it's an amazing piece of engineering as well. What we're involved with, though, is to take that and actually build out a city of 1 million people that surrounds it called Kingdom City. Now, what we're going to show you was what was delivered last week, which is a marketing and sales video of selling people on what this concept is, which is the first true smart city that comes up out of the ground holistically. This is a city that is designed as a basis of design on technology first. It's not about sticking iBeacons or putting a Wi-Fi hotspot into structure as an afterthought. Everything you see here, every single building that you're going to see is thought through from technology first, based on the user experience, that then transforms the building itself. Case in point, about 110 years ago, there was this brand new technology that was on the market called the elevator that fundamentally changed the shape of the city. What we're seeing right now, smart city technologies are going to now fundamentally change everything that we think about the built environment. It is the world's first experiment on this. So we are the master architects on this. We're working directly with the Prince, and we've just now closed a deal where we're starting the process that we're also the constructors. The actual construction of this, the GCs, has been long group, the largest general contractor in the Middle East. They're the ones that are doing the building, the tower. We've also had to deal with them now to actually do the land development and certain superstructures. But the rest of this city, every single building, every street light, every piece of technology, this type of thing, will be built in Beijing. Arab is our engineering group, and we're modularizing every single one of us to actually take the living structure, put it into a modular design, digitally fabricated in 4 factories surrounding Beijing, shrink wrap it with 0 defects, 0 change orders, and ship it off to Saudi Arabia with the Don Group will piece this thing together. We're coming in 20% under budget. This will be completed in the city of 1 million people in 12 months. That's our project. So you can see why I need the hackathon. I need your ideas. I gotta do this. And it's a lot of fun. This is one of these things where it's a once-in-a-lifetime project, or so I thought, until we started to talk about what we're trying to do here. So what's happened now is that we've just got to deal with ETI Dynamics out of London, who are backing a project of 350,000 people, seeding right outside of Jaipur in Rajasthan, India. They also want the same people. And then April 12th, I'll be heading over with Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker and the Secretary of Energy Nunes on a trade mission on smart cities to China to also show them what's possible. What's really cool is we're already building the city inside of Beijing and then shipping it. It'd be very cool to see what happens if you can actually keep it domestically inside. So this stuff is real. We're changing the idea of IPD and design build and all those things that are wonderful about what we're trying to do. But what we're going to do is leapfrog that and say there's a better way to go. If you start design from technology, if you start to capture digital DNA from the end point first and move backwards, we have an opportunity to really change the industry in a very unique way that is more environmentally friendly, that allows you to save money and actually spend more time on more important things like this layout. Is it really the type of layout that we need? Well, in this case, it kind of sort of is. What we've done is that we've cut a deal right now with Google X Labs with their self-driving car. Chris and I cut a deal where they purchased 25,000 units as a start to implement as the mass transportation system throughout this entire city. The culture in the Middle East is that the natives do not take mass transportation. They don't take buses. They don't take trains. The people that do take those are the expats and the tourists. The other thing that they don't do is they don't drive bicycles. How do you drive a bicycle with a toad, right? So it was a real issue. Do you just walk around this big city? Or what would happen if we had an electric, self-driving car that does away with the big issue in Saudi Arabia, right? Which is sort of a controversial thing, which is no women drivers. How about no drivers? It does away with the issue, right? So what this also does is that now this is a technology like an elevator that fundamentally changed our entire design of, like, let's say the shopping mall. Because now you can actually have the car go right into the interior of the mall, pick you up at the proper store. An Uber type of system knows who you are. You can talk to the actual thing. I can say, I want to go meet my girlfriends for this thing, a lunch, or I want to go home, and it's totally safe. So these are the types of things that are changing the shape of how we had to design the mall to how we have to design the outdoor spaces, right? The outdoor spaces we learned over time was that we needed to take into account not air conditioning everything, right? Because that was the problem with the first two master designers that got fired. They really didn't think through the holistic patterns that for centuries, especially in Jeddah, that's right on the Red Sea, there's prevailing winds. So why put, maximize your square meters and all that stuff, which is great for lettable square meters inside a shopping mall, but then enclose it and put, air conditioners on that. First of all, when you're, a kilometer up in the sky, you're going to look down on package units up on top of the roof. That's dumb. That doesn't look good. Secondly, you're wasting a lot of energy because they figured out by design how to take passive cooling and actually push those winds as they come in off the ocean or when they come back off the desert and use those to the maximum advantage, which is why we actually do have things like being able to take the wind and actually take the lattice work, which is very famous in Old Jeddah. They have this beautiful lattice work, wood lattice work, that is the replacement for windows. Because what they do is it allows the air to come in but keeps the sunlight from actually building up heat. Right? They figured that out 400 years ago. We're just saying, well, let's do it here. So what's happening is everything around this particular city is going to be covered in some sort of sunshades. One of the sunshades we have designed is like these lotus flowers type of things, right? And they open up and they provide shade. They also provide mist. We actually have a pump that's actually powered by the solar panels that are up on top of this thing that always create mist. So you're constantly cool and you have the shade. But what's really cool is at night, these things actually go up just like a lotus flower. Lets the heat rise, whatever the heat gain's been there. But you can also see 1001 Arabian Nights. One of the most beautiful things about the Middle East is the night sky. So these are the types of things that were put in there from a holistic standpoint, technology-driven, that normally could never have been done in a fashion that I think would be, affordable, but it's necessary. The other thing we've done is that we've created the world's largest hydroponic farm on every rooftop. This will be a self-sufficient produce area, and they're actually looking at so much produce that it will be exportable. Right now, they can't grow anything there because the acidity inside of the sand and the ground, although they get rain, it just runs right off. We actually took a page right out of Monster. Instead of using this design for what was called the Personal Rapid Transit System, which was on rails, these are now all driverless cars. The other group we're actually talking with also is, have you seen that photograph from CES in Las Vegas of the self-driving car by Mercedes-Benz? one of the coolest looking cars of all time, like really cool. We're in talks with them. And the idea behind the driverless car system is that we would have tiers like rental cars, where you'd have, the Mercedes, you'd have the mid-range like this, you'd have an economy version. And that, of course, would be inside of this Uber-like system about lower cost for higher luxury. The group that we're working with right now to construct all of this is the Beijing New Buildings Material Group, the world's largest building part manufacturer, actually listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and they are actually gearing up right now. We do have this particular area to do first. It's the expat residential community that's supposed to look like a resort, and that right now is off and running. So yeah, this is why when you say big data, this is the physical manifestation of what we're trying to do. Now, some of the things that we have to think through as well, especially with the tower. When Adrian designed that thing, he had already experienced a lot of user feedback because of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. And a lot of that was about, its sway. It sways 4 feet up at the top all the time. 4 feet. And when you're swaying 4 feet and you're up there for a length of time, because there are people up there that live there, there's other people that work up that high, you have to have a trust relationship that the engineers knew what they were doing, right, Doherty? So, the idea is, how do you have a trust relationship with your built environment? The first thing we're going to do is actually look at it from the tower aspect. There's a technology that came out of NASA and Vanderbilt University called the neocortex. It's actually out of Nashville, Tennessee. It broke out of Vanderbilt once the research was done. And what this artificial intelligence does that's different from other AI is that it actually does act more like a brain because it responds to visual communication and feelings. It has empathy. So it understands that when it looks at your calendar or looks at some emails or text messages and sees your face that, you were about to go on a date last night but someone didn't show up, you're probably pretty pissed off the next morning. This AI, this neocortex, will then respond to that, either verbally or set up things in your day to make you feel better. It's kind of spooky, right? It exists right now. FedEx has actually implemented this thing at the Memphis hub, and also Amazon for their distribution centers, because it understands inanimate objects as well as human beings. So it actually works in a very, very wonderful way when you put it into the context of what this guy did at Hanson Robotics. Now, actually, Damon actually went down to New Zealand to meet this guy, Hanson. He was the robotics guy behind Weta. And Weta, let me turn this on. Weta is the special effects group behind Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, all that type of stuff. And what he did was he found out about things like neocortex and wanted to put a brain inside of his inanimate objects to actually then have them as companions for autistic children and Alzheimer's patients, and that's his business. So you can imagine the amount of patience that these things have, but also it responds in kind, like a human, to empathy, and actually then can actually start to help people. So we took this idea and said, wouldn't it be really interesting if we did not put this into like a humanoid type of robot, but actually put it into the building itself? Anyone see the movie Her? Yeah. This is Her meets Siri, but controlled, because we're putting this into the Kingdom Tower. Because we want people to understand that when you have a relationship one-on-one with the building itself, you'll actually have a more trusted relationship when there's an emergency, maybe there's a fire, maybe there's some sort of event that happened, and the building will take care of it. It's actually hooked into the building automation system for lockdown and lockout, understands the fire suppression system is the best way out, all those different things that are really, really important. That's why Building Siri is coming on board. There's a gentleman named Sandy Petland over at MIT's Media Labs that's actually been researching this for about 10 years, so our partnership with them is critical for this thing to succeed. But I would have loved to have actually formed a team here at the AEC Hackathon in Chicago to actually hack and actually build Building Siri. It would be really cool. So anyone that still wants to do that in 4 hours, please meet me. The other thing that is real that we wanted to put into place was to augment the physical law enforcement personnel, and that actually has to do with this group called Nightscope. Nightscope is an organization out of Mountain View. They've just got a contract with the state of California to implement these sentries that take lots of different types of data readings, everything from visual qualities of facial recognition to reading 1,000 different license plates a second and actually matching that to both FBI, state, and local authorities to see if there's anything funky going on with that car. And what it does is it mashes up all that data in real time and actually communicates that out as a preventive crime, preventive event type of solution. There's 3,000 of these right now ordered by the state of California. They're now being implemented throughout the Silicon Valley area of the Bay, and by June they'll actually be throughout the entire Bay Area, including Oakland and all the way down. So this is real. The reason why they're doing it is that this is in response to all the school shootings that have been happening in the United States. Interesting, right? We're looking at this now to augment the entire city. Again, data-driven technology now that we're going to have to figure out how the sidewalks work for this. Fundamentally change sidewalks, fundamentally change how you actually feel safe or not. Because when the Kingdom City is finally completed, and Kingdom Tower is up and operational in June 2018, it's going to be the world's #1 terrorist target. So that's for real. So yeah, this is what we've been working on the building side of things and also smart cities. What happens to existing cities with big data? Well, we've been very fortunate to have some very good opportunities. Of course, you have to find budget line items for things, right? Innovation is innovation. Sometimes it's not a budget line item, and you don't get the project, you don't get the contract. So we have to find our way in. Most times, because we do visualization very well, because it's in a 3D environment inside the browser, we get marketing and sales a lot. So what we were doing here was, this was marketing, but not for the sale of something, but to convince the city council and the public of Atlanta that Mayor Reed wanted to have the Georgia Dome moved so that the Atlanta Falcons can actually build their new stadium. They used this to show the economic results of what would happen after that's in place, and the environmental issues and all that stuff. And he did it in 3D with a smartboard using his hand. Because this is a canned version, of course, you have to show him the video, but you can actually go up there and start to move through things, go into a building, go to the Georgia World Congress, go to the World of Coca-Cola, actually experience what this thing's going to do. So again, better user experience to have a persuasive argument on behalf of the mayor of Atlanta and Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons. And they got the approvals across the board. They said that if they had spent the time to go through the environmental impact studies and spreadsheets and everything, it would take months. This took 2 meetings. 2 meetings. So he loves this way of communicating. This got our foot in the door now to look at other types of things, because the way that good technology should work is the 3D platform is a platform. It's a visualization platform. But because this is all done in open source, open code, it's all WebGL driven, how you write to actually interact with the data is actually through HTML5 and JavaScript and JS. Very, very simple. So anyone that knows how to use those tools, you can write applications for this. The city owns this as an asset. Now they can invite people like a hackathon to come in there and go, what's important in your neighborhood? Is it crime? Is it water? Is it energy? Whatever. And you can write applications to it. That's the business model. Very, very, very cool way of looking at things. Another example would be in San Francisco, where they had a big problem in trying to identify an issue they had on Market Street, where there were 3 elite platinum buildings that were on the south side of the street. And what they decided to do, you can actually go up online right now and check this out, they passed an ordinance that said that you've got to take 5 different points of energy usage and submit those with your corporate taxes. And then what they did was they used Google Maps to actually show how buildings are performing. All the elite platinum buildings failed. So there's a big investigation. Did the architect do the right job? Yeah, specified properly. Did the GC implement the proper equipment? Yeah, everything is fine. Then why is this building failing? Well, in 2D you can't see what we learned in 3D, which was, we actually then took it, and we took all the different pieces of data and lit up things, and we saw red, red, red. But across the street was green, 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 with brand new buildings that had reflective glass on the north side of Market Street that took the sun and put heat gain on those buildings so much that you could never design for them. Right? You couldn't have known that it was in 2D on Google Maps, but boy, did we really see it inside of Oregon. So now they're actually looking at this particular platform for zoning ordinances, for building department submissions, so that they can start to learn ahead of time instead of an afterthought like, oh, I really should have thought about that. again, 3D world is starting to see these little wins in the context of smart cities, building permitting, and that type of thing that we're pretty happy about how things are going. But just one example about what I was talking about, how you write an application on top of this to actually make a difference. So the majority of our applications are meant for security, safety, and a better user experience. That's it. You know, we could have went into the retail world and made a lot of money in gaming and all that stuff. But you know what? That's actually not important. What is important are people that are there to save us. And it would be really cool if we could take a tool that we already use right now, things like Revit, SketchUp, and other things like that, and actually mash it up into a gaming world to help save lives. And this is what we did in Kansas City, Missouri, and this is Orby Fire. Now what this is a way of taking the authenticated data from the city of Missouri. Mayor James gave us keys to the kingdom to access data on a per-call basis, not one call calls, single family. And they got the address, they know that it's a kitchen fire, smoke-filled condition, and their kid is missing up on the second floor. That's all a firefighter knows. So as they're putting on their equipment, they get there, and then they have to make an assessment. What we learned from the firefighters is that they would love to have more information before they actually get to the site. So what we do is that we mash up a bunch of stuff. We use Waze to actually show them the proper way of getting there because of traffic. We actually hook into the water department to understand the pressure for that particular fire hydrant at that particular home. We pull as much information as we can from the building department to actually show not only the foundation location, but as much information as we can get, like where the staircase is, where the openings are for doors, where the window fenestrations are. Now all of a sudden we're giving them more information so that as they're putting on their equipment in the car, the way they do that is right now here in Chicago the same way. They have a clipboard with a pencil with an incident reporting sheet, and they manually say, okay, it's almost 2 o'clock. We know that Joe and Jack are going to be doing the search and rescue. Fran and Rich are going to go around here and actually fight the fire. Go in. Time. Then what they do is they count off as they come out of the fire, and then they know that they're safe. But more times than not, there could be 2 Joes. Is Joe out? Yeah, Joe's out. Meanwhile, the other Joe's in distress. He just had a heart attack. He's inside. That's happened time and time again. That just actually happened in Memphis. The guy died of a heart attack. What we do is that we leverage what happened with Google. Google actually hooked up every home in Kansas City, Missouri, to their gig fiber network. At the same time that they had the road ripped up, they actually then made every street light a Wi-Fi hotspot, gig Wi-Fi hotspot, which means that I could actually now place a geospatial fence around this. So as the firefighter comes up, he has a near frequency thread that's into his name tag. So when he has his jacket on, he goes right through the fence and boop, boop, pops up now on an iPad incident reporting sheet. More importantly, when he comes back out, boop, boop, he's now out. That helps save lives. That was a simple exercise that was huge. But guess what I needed? The digital DNA of what happens in the building department. The minimal stuff that you give the building department, shame on us. The fact that we build to code instead of building from code, shame on us. We're better than that. Which means that stuff that has to go in here is no longer about just trying to get it permanent. Because guess what? If that is not correct, firefighters are going to be running into walls, because the second phase of this is that we're now taking, and this was a prototype of how we were thinking about doing it on a device, this is now put into the visor of every firefighter. Meaning that you have an augmented reality with a geospatial system Wi-Fi that can now geolocate me to 1 centimeter of accuracy. So as I'm walking through this particular smoke-filled condition, I can find the stair, I can find a way to get around there. That's real. That's being experimented right now in Kansas City. The next phase of this, which is where we're still experimenting about where we can find the right type of tool, is a heat-resistant either LiDAR or laser scan, so that I can augment this building department model with live FF&E, meaning sofas, chairs, all the stuff, so that I can superimpose that as I'm walking through and I'm not running into a chair or a sofa. That's the next step of this. Now, this is the big data on steroids. I need your data to be accurate, because downstream now becomes really important for smart city type of applications that save lives, and hopefully it's not your house. So that's why this importance, and why we're really passionate about what we're trying to do here. We're actually working with the National Institute of Standards and Technology. We're part of what's called the Global City Teams Challenge, and this is the product that we're focused in on. The National Fire Protection Agency, the NFPA, is fully behind this, and now working with the insurance companies to make sure that this becomes a standard issue of how you actually fight fires around in the United States. And that's the prototype of what we're working with. So, Big data and infinite data. Hey, it's just like teenage sex, isn't it? Everyone talks about it. No one really knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, so yeah, I'm doing big data. Right? And that's kind of true, right? So when you hear big data, don't get scared. No one knows what the F they're doing. Bottom line is focus. We've always been about big data. The problem that we're going to have to now solve as the built environment professionals is how do we handle that and help people understand that big data and sensor information and this thing called the Internet of Things does not work unless it's contextualized to the physical built environment. They need us as much as we need them, but boy, their data has to be in context. It has to be geospatial. Otherwise, it's just floating around fluff that looks really good during a PowerPoint presentation. So, who should we be looking at for some of this leadership? I would say this group, to start. You know, the jury's still out about how this will really function, but this is a cool tool put out by Google. This is the first spin-off of Google X Labs called Flux. You've probably seen some stuff like up on TED and probably stuff up online. You can actually go up to, actually I'm going to go live right now. Let's see if this works. All right, Comcast, we got on. So, this is Flux. You can go up to Flux.io and actually sign up for free and check this out. This is a tool meant for real estate developers mostly. But what Google has done is that they've taken just Austin for now for us to check out. But every city in the United States now has every one of their building codes scanned in to the system. Yes, Google did it. Something that we've been looking to do for a very long time. Digital representation of building codes. That means that now we can actually tie building codes back to what? This platform, which is based upon what? Google Earth. So this particular plot, a real estate developer must be like, okay, you know, I want to take a look at this and see what else I can. Give me the envelope about what I can build here and show it to me fast. And through building codes, zoning information, all these different things, he can quickly go in and start to see, is this really going to maximize my construction costs for what this thing's going to operate as? And if that particular plot doesn't work, well, I can actually go back in and say, you know what, let's do something different. Let's look at another plot. So this is all about the building codes in Austin, downtown. You can go around, play with it, find out information about this thing, true parcel numbers, true data, big data, done in a very contextual way. So this is meant for metro, this is meant more like for city. What is coming out, we hope this year, is a technology that will interface with this, that takes off, or actually solves the riddle of why they sold SketchUp to Trimble. And they are going to reinvent themselves with a BIM tool. Now what that is, I've seen it, it's okay, but I think now that they've actually gone back into stealth mode, I think we have something very special to take a look at, an alternative to some existing tools that we all use today. Again, with Google information behind it, that's powerful. So they're doing this because they really do want to have the idea that you have information, we have a lot of data, we're the oracle of the internet. Now we can do something special for the built environment because they're all about environmentalism and sustainability and that type of thing, and that's a good thing. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of feedback we get. We have invited them to hackathons. They're just not ready yet, but they will. They'll get there. So with that, I'm going to leave you with just an image of something that I think you should be aware of. And that is, when you use anything Wi-Fi, you're on the public internet. There was a technology that was put out last June and is the #1 gaming game of all time, and it's called Watch Dogs. Now, this is where it started, though. It started in London, Berlin, and Paris, and I'm going to go live on their site right now. So you can go up to wearedata.watchdogs.com. Actually, Dave is the one that turned me on to this thing, and he goes, I hope you have a change of underwear. And I said, okay, I hope you have a change of underwear. So what happens is they have Paris, Berlin, and London. Let's go to London. And what this does is that it scrapes the public internet for all information. So if you're sending a text message, an Instagram post, a post to Facebook, a tweet, we're capturing it. And we're going to show you live right now different districts here in London. We're going to go to Westminster because that's pretty familiar visually to a lot of people. That's where Big Ben is, and Houses of Parliament and stuff like that. And what we're going to do is show what we can get here. Well, we actually know what the average salary is, the employment rate, the crime rates, what the electric consumption is right now. We have a different list of activities, and okay, let's start seeing some information here. So over here by Tower Bridge, let's start seeing what this Instagram post looks like. We're going to go live, and right now in London, live. Let's start seeing some other things. You want to see some phone calls? Yeah. Oh, here's all the public bicycles that are available. 20 open. There's one bike available there. Let's see a tweet. Okay, and what is he seeing? Let's go up to Twitter. And, oh, wow, that's the shard. Yeah. All this stuff is real, it's live, and the reason why they're doing this is because they capture this information, including things like traffic lights, right? And how they actually work, what's red, what's green, what's yellow. And they package this together and sell it to gaming companies as props. So if you wanted to do World of Warcraft London edition, you're getting live in the cloud, real-time data that makes it more real. So it's props. I looked at this and said, Jesus Christ, what you guys do, man? If Al-Qaeda got this, we're all dead, right? Which means the good guys got to get involved. So Homeland Security is actually looking at this, saying this could be a very valuable tool. Because guess what they're capturing right now since June? Every one of your tweets here in Chicago, every one of your posts, Instagram, you name it. And you can't do anything about it. And what does that mean for big data? What does that really mean for us? What it means for privacy? Well, a couple of things. We think that by exposing what is meant to be something really benign, like make cooler games, could be really used for better security, better safety. Specifically here in Chicago, since they opened up Pandora's box here first. Right? Now they are capturing data, they're actually making it live and making it really cool looking. What would happen if we were able to use that? Maybe not other people's privacy type of stuff, but the understanding of how to link to inanimate objects so that we can actually create a better built environment from the design aspect. During design and construction, understanding what really is happening at the site because we can capture that data. And then more importantly, the sustainability of the facility management and the actual operations of the city. We have to get in front of this. We're the good guys. Right? I don't want ISIS or is, or was, whatever they're called, coming over here and actually having this type of data. Because guess what? They're already there. Because if I'm able to get it, you're able to get it. It's free. If you're up on a phone right now, you can get there, right? We are data.watchdogs.com. It's up to us. So this isn't about like creating a better built environment, from just doing your job. You're supposed to be doing your job. Do great architecture, do great engineering, do great construction. That's what you're paid to do. What you're not paid to do is this. And that's actually the right thing to do. Start thinking ahead. So all this stuff is here. It's real. It's live. It's up to us now to do something about it. There we go. Oh, excellent. Siri's going at it. Building Siri. I love it. She's here. So when you start to take a look at technologies, understand that there's this growth, that there's this adoption cycle. Everything you saw, even We Are Data, the Flux stuff, it's still going to have to go through this particular pace. But sometimes chasing an idea, you'll never get there. But putting yourself in a position to get hit by something, that may happen. So keep your eyes open, understand that smart cities are here, and that at the end of the day, this is the greatest legacy that we can really leave behind. It's never been a better time to be part of the AEC industry. Why? Because we've got a whole new palette of tools. And those tools are meant to create beautiful spaces like what's happening in Singapore, what's happening in Shanghai, and thank God they're actually taking some action now. Actually, Jesse and I were living in Shanghai for a number of years, and thank God we left before the real pollution started happening, the smog. Well, they're actually taking action on that. That's something that we can get behind. But what we really need to get behind is what is going to be the future and how do we shape that? And, do we want Dubai to look like this and Paris to look like this? Do we want Governor's Island to be developed like this? Donald Trump had his way, yeah, it kind of looks like a Trump design. Or what Shanghai is going to turn into, which is this. So with that, every day I wake up and this is why I do it.